Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner.
He has a great and glamorous life.
He truly is a playboy.
He is the magazine is him.
Beautiful women, abundant wealth, and worldwide fame.
I began in 1953. The dream was relatively small. I just wanted to do a magazine that I believed in, and that would be successful enough so I could keep doing it. And what came afterward, I could not have imagined.
The story by now, most people are familiar with, reads like something of a fairy tale. $600, a manual typewriter, a card table, one guy alone in his apartment cranking it out. How modest were your expectations?
Well, rather modest. I had enough money at that point to produce just the one issue and didn't put a date on it because I wasn't sure I would have enough money for the second.
To what extent was that first issue an expression of your fantasies of what life should be?
Almost 100%. It really was a wish book. You know, they used to call the Sears Roebuck catalog the wish book back in the early part of the century. I think that Playboy clearly was a personal wish book and became very quickly a kind of a handbook for a lifestyle for the urban. Well, my own educational background is psychology, and I've been very interested in people and motivations, etc., since I was very young. And so if that comment is related to noticing that I have a lot of texts and research material around related to psychology and to sex, that's true. It has more to do with this editorial series, the Playboy Philosophy, that I've been writing, which is really a personal expression of my own views on some of the social and sexual ills of our time.
Now, you demand very high moral standards to do with the clubs. For instance, no dating between the bunnies and the members. Don't you feel that dressing the way the girls are dressed, are you not presenting a sort of sexual tease? Are you not saying that far but no further?
I don't think there's any pretense involved in it because, what might be...
it might be called a tease. Would that be
yes, I think that it would be, in other words, there's no pretense or hypocrisy involved in it because there is no attempted suggestion that the operation is anything otherwise. In other words, the fact that the bunnies don't date the customers is one of the things that we promote. The reason for that is not any kind of double standard or hypocritical point of view on our part by any means. It's just an attempt to separate business from pleasure.
Was it an instant hit? Did Playboy take off right away in the magazine?
Yes, yes. I just had enough money, literally. The magazine was started, I had enough money for just one issue. $600 borrowed from a local loan and a bank company, and then investments from friends and relatives, a total of $8,000. If it had not been successful immediately, there would never have been a second issue.
By the way, I want to thank all with you. You talked about the beginning. The story true that you asked for a raise from Esquire magazine, they declined, and that led to Playboy?
Yes, I was earning $60 a week and had not received, I'd been working there for a year as a copywriter in the promotion department, and had not gotten a raise and asked for a $5 raise. They declined.
Do you ever think what might have happened if they had accepted?
If I had accepted?
If they said, okay, we'll give you a raise.
Okay, yeah.
You ever think what might have happened?
The road untraveled. Let's say I'm very happy I traveled the road that I did. I think on a certain kind of level, they were moving to New York, and my roots were in Chicago. I felt my future was in Chicago or West, so I think that was part of it.
The golden age of Hollywood also inspires young Hefner.
He used to go to the movies a lot, and that was where he had his big escape.
Films about romance fascinate Hefner and expose him to the kind of physical affection that is lacking in his strict puritanical home.
For me, the whole idea of love was defined by and large by the movies, and it came from a notion of romantic love.
The 1934 film Tarzan and His Mate introduces 8-year-old Hefner to love as an adventure.
Tarzan.
Tarzan, living in harmony with a girl in the jungle with animals, was something that I thought was too delicious, particularly for a kid that was kind of a loner and had problems communicating with his parents. And that Tarzan and His Mate had some nudity in it, had great appeal to a young man.
Hefner is also interested in drawing and exhibits an aptitude that will determine his career path.
I wasn't simply drawing cartoons, I was creating comic books and, in effect, publishing, even at a very early age.
At Sayre Elementary, Hefner starts the school paper, but in junior high, his creative drive is diverted by a new interest: girls. Encounters on the dance floor lead to lessons about the facts of life, which Hefner learns from a most unusual teacher, his mother.
She had this little book that showed where babies came from. Didn't really deal with sex. It dealt with procreation. She would tell us without emotion, just the facts.
The fact Hefner is most curious about is what naked women look like. He turns to Esquire magazine to find out. Due to its suggestive cartoons and erotic artwork, Esquire magazine is considered to be more than a little risque, which appeals to Hefner.
I fell in love with those cartoons, those pinup pictures.
At 15, Hefner creates Shudder magazine. It focuses on his love of movies and horror films. But later, not satisfied with just writing about horror movies, Hefner decides to make one. He casts his best friend, Jim Brophy, as a monster. Hefner plays a scientist, and a girl named Betty Conklin plays the scientist's wife. Hefner first met Betty at a soda shop and was instantly smitten.
He came over to my house the next day with a bicycle built for two, and we went for a ride.
Hefner longs for a romantic relationship, but he doesn't make his feelings known to Betty.
We were such good friends, you know, that I just never imagined that it was anything else.
So instead, Hefner's leading lady begins dating another boy. Hefner's hopes for a Hollywood ending are dashed, and the incident becomes the defining moment in his young life. Hefner decides that in order to get the next girl, he must change, and transforms himself from an average Joe into a budding playboy.
He started calling himself Hef, and he tried to present a more positive picture of himself.
It certainly redefined my persona, but it also made me a little cautious in terms of commitment, too.
Without Betty Conklin, there might never have been a Playboy.
Jim Brophy said when we all got together in our 60s that if Hef had married me, that he'd be doing Jack and Jill magazine.
He was searching for that love, and just whatever ramifications he had from not having gotten that love made him, really go out and want to conquer.
I'm a First Amendment man.
Right.
The First Amendment is first because it's foremost. It's the most important. In other words, without free speech and press, you don't have a democracy.
One of his most recent displays of advocacy came in May 2012 with a full-page editorial titled "The War Against Sex," in which he responds to the family values platform advocated by many conservative politicians.
Once the Republicans running for president started dragging the old sex taboos back into the picture, and almost all of them did, I just felt something had to be said. I felt as if we had just gone back 20 or 30 years, and I needed to remind people that we won that war, the personal sexual freedom, a long time ago, and we're not going to let somebody else take it away from us.
Young Cooper says that he would continue his father's advocacy in any future role at Playboy. Your father was an outspoken activist for gay rights, outspoken activist for free speech. What kinds of issues are you interested in?
I'm very passionate about gay rights, and I draw a lot of comparisons to, the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s and the no-hate campaign of today. I mean, obviously, it's hard for me to fully comprehend what that meant, in the 50s and 60s because I wasn't there. But I think that there are, there's still plenty of things to fight for. And I think that that's what Playboy did well, is have a voice for the underdog and people who weren't able to find their own voice. So
I have no major regrets. You know, we only get one time around in this old world, and I feel that I'm one of the very fortunate few. Ray Bradbury, the classic science fiction writer who's done so much work for Playboy, did a piece called Sound of Thunder some years ago that talked about the butterfly effect, in which in a futuristic story, a butterfly is killed in a time travel story in the prehistoric times, and it changes everything over the years and centuries and millenniums that follow. You change one thing in your life, and you don't know what impact that may have. And my life is, I've been so blessed on so many levels, personal, professional, I am hesitant to change anything.
I think that the internet is the future. But I also think that I'm somebody, maybe it is because of who my dad is, but I love picking up a magazine and reading it. And I think that there are a lot of people like me. And so I think that...
Young people.
Yeah. So I think that print is not dying out, as many would say. I think that print is just going through an evolution.
What is the balance that you'll strike? Will print be 20% of what you're doing? Will it be 50% of what you're doing?
No, I think it's hard to say, but I don't see the physical magazine going anywhere for a long time.
It remains, I think, in other words, the business grows in a lot of other directions, but the magazine, I think, remains the heart and soul.
It's still your core.
Yeah.
Well, it was the beginning.